Hello, my fellow SHEROs. I'm Jen Wakefield. I'm all the way in Rensselaer, Indiana, in the middle of nowhere. I call it cornfield country because if you guys look it up, it's literally nothing around me. And just welcome to the SHERO Conference 2021, Courage to Change. Pastor Tyra asked me to speak, and I'm just so privileged and honored to be here with you guys. And I was thinking when I was down there in New Orleans, Pastor Tyra, we were doing an outreach, and she said, "Come on, Jen, come on, come on, come on. We need you to come to the choir, and we need you to sing." And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's not my gift. Lord knows that is not my area. And she said, "Look, I'm not asking you to do a solo. I'm asking you to make a joyful noise." And she follows it with the word, "Be obedient." I'm thinking, here we go. Anytime I get around Pastor Tyra, I'm always hearing, "Be obedient." And I want to thank her for that because, we walk around thinking this is not my ministry, or I'm not called to this and I'm not called to that. And we get stuck in a rut and we don't change and we don't improve and we don't grow. And courage to change, you got to walk in obedience first. And that day, nobody really noticed whether or not I was singing off key. Maybe Pastor Tyra did, but at the end of the day, she said, "We're not going to make God look bad." And I said, you know what? That's who we're representing. And in your ministry and what you do, remember, it's actually God's ministry and He's using you. And it's your responsibility to be obedient to what He tells you to do. Whether you feel like it's your calling or not, or that's not my area. Let me tell you, the only time I can sing well is when nobody is around and I'm in the shower, because there's nobody that can tell me I sing bad. So, you want to walk in obedience whenever God's calling you to do something, because things are going to happen. Life is going to change. Every day is a new day. And so my ministry that I always felt like, oh, it's my ministry. This is what I do. I'm an evangelist. And I've always been drawn to urban ministries. And especially down in New Orleans, it's easy to spot a lot of what the needs are. And one of the ministries I was drawn to was feeding the people underneath the bridge. These big overpasses. If y'all ever down in New Orleans, you know that there's a lot of homelessness down there. And so to go there, bring them lunch, pray for them, and even working with Champion Church down in the actual heart of the city, providing breakfast on Saturday mornings. So it was easy to jump in, get into ministry, and that was my thing. That's what I felt I was called to do, and I did it. A lot of people came to Christ from that with our group effort and making those changes, and just putting that effort into walking in obedience. And so I'm now in Indiana, and literally, if you guys pull up Rensselaer, Indiana, you can look and there is no major city. There's literally nothing but cornfields. I can't explain how different it is. And so I come up here and I'm thinking, Lord have mercy, like, God, what are you doing? Like, why are you bringing me up here? And what kind of ministry am I supposed to be doing up here? This is not even the type of people I'm used to being around. There aren't any bridges, no big overpasses, flyovers where I can go find the homeless people right here in my community and give them the food. No, there aren't any bridges. There's no, there is a downtown, but it's nothing like a downtown New Orleans where you can set up a tent and put some tables out and feed the multitudes. And so I got here and I found myself driving over an hour to a city north up in the Gary area. And I was wasting my resources trying to fit into what my box was, and instead of walking in obedience. And so what happens when you relocate? What happens? What do you do when you have moved or you have a new season in your life? And right now, I'm married, I'm a mom, before I was single, so it was nothing for me to be in the streets, for me to go door to door in the very dangerous neighborhoods and talk to people about Christ, and talk to people and say, hey, you need to come here to this breakfast, or come over here to this church, come out to this outreach. And here it's very, very different. I'm looking around. If you ever come to my house, literally I don't have a neighbor for another mile. So there is no casually walking around the neighborhood here. So I had to sit there and what are the steps that you have to take when you're in a new area and you're called to make some changes, and this is now something that you have to do because of the location that you're in, and you have to have courage. So where does courage come from? Well, you have courage and you have fear. So you have to decide. It's up to you to decide how are you going to operate? Are you going to operate by courage, or are you going to operate by fear? And I'm going to tell you, fear will creep in, and fear will hinder what you're supposed to be doing and who you're supposed to be reaching. And you got to keep focused on what the number one thing on the agenda is, and that's reaching people and bringing them to Christ and having their soul saved so that they can have eternal life and receive that free gift of salvation. And when you get wrapped up in self, and you get wrapped up in, well, the Lord didn't call me to do this, or that's not my gift. It's not even about that, because maybe he just needed you that one time to be obedient. Sometimes he's not looking for your gift. He's looking for your obedience. Okay. And so you have to check yourself. Am I being obedient? So if I'm not going to be obedient, who am I going to be like? Your behind's going to be like Jonah. Jonah was told to go to Nineveh, and he was like, that's not up my alley. That's not my place. That's not where I want to be. Well, guess what? He found himself on a boat in a storm. People threw him over. He got stuck in the belly of a big fish. Okay? And when you're in the belly, what is there? There's nothing but bile. You're stuck in there. There's nastiness all around you. And you can't go nowhere. You don't have any vision. You can't see where you're going, because now you're in this pit. And so you don't want to be disobedient. You want to say, okay, Lord, you called me here. I used to say, oh, Lord, this town here is my Nineveh. I even had people even confirm it to me before I even said it out loud. I said, this might be your Nineveh. I'm like, Lord, yes, I know. And so it's so different. So how do I do ministry here? Well, here's some things. Here's how you find the courage to change. You just have to do it. God doesn't reside in your bubble of comfort. He doesn't reside in your bubble of fear. Okay? He resides in your big step of faith, and that's what you have to take. And so what are these steps that you have to take to where you get that courage can come out of you? Because you're a soldier. You've got new territory. Okay, God done expanded your territory. How many times we pray, Lord, expand my territory? Well, he has. Now he gave you some territory that you're not familiar with, territory that you think this might not be for me, but no, you're there. Where your feet are, that's your territory. And so for some practical ways to identify, how do I get involved in ministry in such a different environment? So first things first, you have to find a church. You have to find a church that is keeping the number one on their agenda. And that's reaching people, getting people saved, bringing them to Christ, impacting the community. Okay, that's the number one thing. The next thing is, I came here and I'm like, well, I can't go driving around looking underneath bridges to see if there's homeless people. So I had to reach out to the newspaper. Hey, listen, what kind of things are happening here in this town? I went to the local sheriff's department, local police department. What kind of arrests are you having here? Because I'm not seeing, a lot of disturbances. Well, I learned there's a high crime here for heroin, and there's child trafficking here quite a bit. Indiana is known for the crossroads of America. Well, there's a lot of trafficking of children here. Then I went to the hospital. What type of things are you guys experiencing here? Well, they have a lot of overdoses. So this is not something that can easily be seen by just driving around the neighborhood. And it's very different here. So I say I'm surrounded by cornfields. So when you're given new territory, you have to assess the land, see what type of soil you're dealing with. See, I love mangoes. Mangoes is one of my favorite fruit. But upon assessing this soil here, I cannot grow a mango tree here in the Midwest. It's just not feasible. Between the soil and the weather, the environment, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to grow. That tree is not going to be fruitful. If it even becomes a tree, that seed is not going to go anywhere. It's going to die off, and now you still have this land that doesn't have anything or any fruit, any crops to harvest from. So when you get to a new location, you want to assess the land. Look in, dig in, talk to the locals, talk to the local businesses. Say, hey, what's the need here? Visit if there's a mission center. Visit if there's a food pantry. I know there's food pantries everywhere. And a lot of those people tend to talk and pray with the people that are coming in there. And this way you can identify what the need is. Okay, but you have to be obedient, and you have to be able to just have the courage. You have to have the courage to change. And that's what you have to focus on. If you focus on that fear, you're feeding that fear, and that fear is going to grow. But if you focus on what that number one thing is on the agenda, and that's reaching people and conveying Christ, that courage is going to come. But it's only going to come by you taking these steps and stirring things up. And so you go ahead and take these steps. And now you're talking to people, finding out what's the need here. You get involved, and there's time that fear is going to come. That fear is going to hit you for whatever reason, whatever the situation is, whether it's the circumstances, the location. For me, sometimes it was just bad weather. Look, I'm not particularly fond of the cold weather, and so I would stay isolated, and I just felt, it's not for me. It's not for me. But here's the thing: it's not about you. It's not about you. You are not the message. You are the messenger. And so if we take our focus off ourselves and keep it on Christ and stay moving, okay, you got to look at this as an assignment. I'm a military wife, and my husband is, he has his practice here in Rensselaer, but he is also a colonel in the U.S. Army. We recently went through a deployment last year. Now, he had orders. That order said you have to leave on June 29, 2019. And 2020, excuse me. And he had no choice. He was called, he followed those orders, he obeyed, and he went out and performed his assignment. Now, he didn't have a choice as to where he was located, but he went out of obedience. And he did his job because that's what he was supposed to do. So he went out. He went overseas in the middle of nowhere that looked nothing like where we live. That the people didn't look like how we look. That the beliefs are completely different from the beliefs around us. And he went and he performed his task successfully and came back home. Thank God. Okay, so as a soldier of Christ, when God tells you it's time for you to deploy, it's time for you're being drafted, you're getting deployed, you have to understand you've already been through boot camp. What you've been doing now, what you've been doing in your hometown, where you at, where you've been, that's been your training, that's been your boot camp. Okay, so now you're getting called to the front lines, and that front lines, that new territory is going to look different. That foreign country is going to look different. Those people are going to look different. Okay, and your purpose there is, the goal is still the same, but how you achieve it might look a little differently. And you have to come to a place of understanding that's okay. You don't want to stay monotonous, and you don't want to stay doing the same old boring thing over and over again. Because if you've got a tire that keeps spinning in the same place, it's going to eventually create a rut, and you're going to keep moving. Your tire is going to be spinning, but you're not going to go anywhere. So it's okay. Understand this. It's okay to be changed. It's okay to be relocated. It's okay to be given not just a bigger territory, but a different kind of territory. Okay? Because there's all kinds of different people out there. Everybody needs to hear about Christ. Everybody. Not one person is exempt from that. Okay? And so you have to consider that an honor and a privilege that God chose you to be in a crazy location that you would have never picked for yourself. Okay, because there's things in you that need to be brought to that table. And it begins with your obedience. And after your obedience, that courage will come with it. Okay, so now you've come in, you've connected with the church. right? And you've talked to the public servant officials, you know, the police officers. You might even go to the schools, check in there, see if there's needs. There might be a situation where there's more of a need for elementary school kids, maybe teenagers, maybe an academic need. I mean, you know, there's so many different things, you know, and you continue just looking at that land, and you've got to till it up. You gotta plow it. You gotta see what kind of soil you're dealing with. You know, does it need to be fertilized? Does it need to be water? What kind of seeds do I need to be planting here? Okay, you have to assess this situation. You have to realize, what seeds do I have that I can plant? Because you have more than one gift. More than one gift. You might prefer one gift over the other, but you have more than one gift. And so you got these gifts, or these seeds that you're putting into this soil, into this community, into this new location, into these people's lives, this new territory that Christ gave you, okay? And now you're going to plant it, you know, and then you're going to sit there and make sure it's fertilized, right? And so you found a church, you've done your research about the land, you're ready to plant these seeds, and now here comes some storms. That might just uproot all your work. Some storms, your circumstances, your feelings, especially as females, we can have some feelings that just, you know, just get down and depressed and not feeling right, and all these things that might interrupt the focus of what you're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to tell you, your next step, the other thing you need to do is you need to lock arms with a minimum of 3 other women. 3, okay? And I always say 3 because anything in the Bible that is referencing to 3 is referring to strength, the threefold cord, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, okay? Faith, hope, and love. In engineering, whenever you building bridges or anything that requires strength, everything is done by triangles. That's 3. If you're sitting on a stool, and in order for it to stabilize you and keep you grounded, you have to have a minimum of 3 legs, okay? So you find yourself 3 friends that you're going to lock arms with. And what kind of 3 friends do you need? I'm going to go a little funny here, and you guys, this is a little bit of Jen Wakefield coming out. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the lion. The Lion in the Wizard of Oz. The lion was seeking courage, okay? So how did he get courage? See, he linked up with 3 friends. He had one friend, Dorothy, that kept him focused. We got to get to where we need to get so that you can get what you're looking for, okay? She kept him focused. She said, look, this is where we need to go. She kept him encouraged. No, you are courageous. You can do this. You need a friend that's going to encourage you when you're feeling down, when you feel like, you know what, I'm not doing it right, or I don't know what I'm doing. First of all, you need to stop saying those things about yourself. You need to speak those things that be not as though they were. So if you say you're not brave enough, you don't have courageous, then you need to speak against that. No, I am courageous. I'm a SHERO. I have courage. Okay? You should be the definition of courage. Okay? You surround yourself. All right? So you got your friend, a Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. It's just going to keep you on track, keep you on that goal, and it's going to keep encouraging you and telling you are courageous. You can do this, girl. Then you want to have a friend like the Tin Man, you know, that's strong, but operates and is looking for love and is going to operate in love and is going to keep you in check to make sure that what you're doing out of love. And that's one thing Pastor Tyra told me when I got into full-time ministry. I said, Pastor Tyra, I said, what's your advice? What's your advice now that I'm in full-time ministry? You know, I felt, I'm in full-time ministry now, right? And I've arrived. But I knew better. And I said, hey, you know, what's your advice? And I'll never forget. We were sitting in her car, and she said, Jen, I'm just going to tell you this. Everything that you do and you operate in love. So make sure you have a friend that's going to always make sure that you operate in love. Somebody that's going to be your checks and balances. Somebody that is going to set the example of this is how you do this, and you do this out of love. Then you got to have your third friend, that scarecrow. That one that's going to keep you laughing. You know, sometimes we get so serious about what we're doing that we bog ourselves down. No, you want to have that friend that's going to keep you smiling, that's going to keep you laughing, that's going to say, girl, what's going on here? And you can talk to them. You can just have a good time, and remind yourself that in ministry it's okay to enjoy it. It's okay to have fun in ministry, but you want to have those 3 friends when you're doing this, and stay in contact with them. Stay in contact with your church. Stay in contact with your community. You don't want to isolate yourself, because the enemy is going to be looking to isolate you, right? So just like the lion in The Wizard of Oz, he was seeking something he already had: courage. Now you're thinking, a lion? Why is a lion needing courage? Well, I'm thinking, you're a woman. You're a SHERO. Why do you think you need courage? You already have courage. You already have it in you. You try to find something and seek something that's already in you. Okay, you have that courage, and so make sure that you, as a lioness, you out there and you stomping on that land, and you claiming that territory, and you declaring what's going to happen in this community, and you speaking over that community and over the lives of the people of that community. If you have to, you drive around that entire town and you pray. You go praying at every single house. Okay, you are the lion of your community. You have the courage. Everything you do needs to convey Christ. Don't worry about whether or not it's your calling, or it's not my gift, or that's not my area. No, 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 no. Am I being obedient? Yes or no? When you obey, courage is going to come. It's going to come out. It's going to bubble up out of you, because it's already in you. Just like that lion. Just like that lion. SHERO, you have courage already. Just let it bubble up in you. You walk in obedience, okay? And you lock arms with other SHEROs, okay? Why is it important to stay connected with other SHEROs and keep building? Let me tell you a little something. Anybody like to barbecue? So when you barbecuing, right, you light up your little charcoal, and then boom, you got this flame. And so they come together, and they're nice and warm, right? And they're gonna cook that good meal on that grill. And so now, all the while, that flame is out, but that charcoal is still hot enough to where it can cook raw meat. And so what happens if you take one of those charcoal stones and set it off to the side, away from the rest of those charcoals? That one by itself is going to cool down, and it's eventually going to go out. It's going to lose its heat. It's going to lose its fire. It's going to lose what it's supposed to be doing. So that's why it's important that you don't separate yourself from your crew, from your SHEROs. Okay, you stay connected to your church, to your community, to your fellow SHEROs, because you do not want to go out like that piece of charcoal off to the side. You need to stay with them, stay warm, keep functioning, keep providing what this community needs, what your community needs, and every other community that you get called to. If you get transferred because you're in the military, or because your job has transferred you, or maybe even your territory might be a new job, a new location, a new role. There's nothing wrong with changing. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm here to tell you, you have the courage to change. You have it, because it's already in you. Imagine if you didn't change. Imagine if you chose to not be courageous. Imagine if Ruth decided to not change. That woman went from being married, and she went ahead and being a widow. That changed. That circumstance changed pretty drastically. And then she went ahead and stayed with her mother-in-law after the husband had passed. And that's a situation that most folks wouldn't even get involved in, because it's not common. But you're not called to be common, okay? You're not just any old regular common average person. You're a SHERO. You're called to do things that other people cannot and will not do, okay? And then she traveled. She traveled with her mother-in-law, went to a place that was not familiar. And guess what? She went back in the field. She went back to work. How many women that our circumstances are changing? We used to be either a stay-at-home mom, or we used to always work and being a career woman. And now, either we have a family. All these different changes. It's okay. And guess what? At the end of the day, she was blessed. And God was glorified because of her obedience. She stuck to it. She stayed focused. She wasn't worried about herself. Even the mother-in-law said, I don't even think I have another seed in me to give you a husband. No problem. She wasn't worried about the circumstances. She had courage. She had courage to change. She knew God always got something for her. And so when you feel like you have fear and that's starting to overcome, and you trying to look for that courage that's in you, identify, what are you afraid of? What is it that you're not trusting in God for that makes you not have the courage to be obedient and do ministry in different places? Okay? So when you get to a new location and you're starting a new ministry, it might not look like the ministry that you came from. It might not look like what you've been doing all these years. But it's okay. It's okay. Because you're going to walk in obedience. And you're going to let that courage bubble up and rise up. And you're going to reach out to those people, that new territory. Don't be like Jonah. Get stuck in a belly around nothing but bile that's going to deteriorate you, that's toxic, that's going to wear you out. It's dark in there. You don't want to do that. You want to walk in obedience. You want to be courageous. You want to get connected with a church. The church that is going to be reaching out to people. The church that is doing ministry, that's going out into the communities, that are empowering men, women, children, and families to make a difference in each other's lives. You want to sit there and figure out, okay, what does this land have for me? What am I supposed to be doing with this territory? That's it. Till up the land. Find out what kind of dirt you're dealing with. Find out what kind of seed you need to be planting. What kind of fertilizer does it need? You can't plant mango trees in a cornfield. It's not going to grow. You might like your mangoes. That's your preferred ministry. But sometimes God going to call you to the cornfields. And you got to learn to plant that seed. You got to learn how that field works. And you just got to work it. You got to work it. Okay? You have the courage to change. And I believe in you. And you should believe in yourself. Because you are a woman of God. You are a child of God. You are his soldiers. You are the front line. You have been called. This is your time. Okay? I'm not here to preach to you. That's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to go look it up in the Word. It's your responsibility to see what did Ruth do. Oh, wait a minute. What is all this about Jonah? No. I'm not here to tell you all that. That's for you to research. That's for you to get in that Word. Okay? I'm not here to take your responsibility from you. I'm here to encourage you. That's your responsibility. You take it up. You do what you're supposed to be doing. Come on, SHERO. I know you're courageous. You know it. I know it. It's in you. Fear has nothing. Don't feed that fear. Feed that courage. So, what are the 3 things you're going to do? You're going to find your church home. You're going to connect. You're going to get involved. Okay? You're going to go ahead and research your territory, your new territory that God has assigned you to, soldier. Okay? How are you going to do that? You can go to the police station, go to the hospitals, go to the school systems, go to the court systems, go to the local business owners, okay? And talk to people and say, hey, do you know what the need is? Or what's happening here? I went to the newspaper to find out what the festivals were, to see what people around here like, okay? You go ahead and do that. You research that new territory that God gave you. And number 3, you find yourself some SHEROs. That's so important. You have to lock arms with some SHEROs. And and you know what? It's all good that they're a little different from you. You need that. You need 3 other SHEROs to balance you out. I know my crazy self needs it. I keep 3 SHEROs handy. Okay? I have Marissa. She's one of my SHEROs. Okay? Let me tell you, my friend Marissa, that girl can pray. She can keep me in check, and she's going to say, Jen, we're going to pray about this. She's going to keep me connected. She's going to keep me grounded. Okay? I got another friend, another SHERO, Missy. Missy, I love Missy. Missy is just, she's the one that no matter what I'm going through, if I'm sad, if I want to cry, she is going to sit there and make me laugh. She's going to remind me, it's okay. Everybody has tough times. Everybody goes through some things, but we're going to go through it together. Okay? And my other SHERO is Daisha. Daisha is going to be the one that's going to tell you you're going to operate in love. You're going to do this right. You're going to stay focused on your game. This is what you need to do. You stay focused. You do this. And she's going to help me filter things out. So I've got a minimum of 3. I've got more SHEROs. I've got plenty more SHEROs. I've got some older ones. I have some older SHEROs that I look up to. I have some SHEROs that are in different parts of the country. You know, we ain't nothing but a phone call away. We're nothing but a FaceTime call away. Okay, a quick text. SHERO, stay connected. Stay connected. I can't stress that enough. And together, you will sit there and change your community. You walk in obedience because you have that courage. You have that courage to change, SHERO. Okay, change your community. Change the type of ministry you're doing. It's not about you. All right, y'all. Y'all have a blessed day. All right, my SHEROs.